Hi, welcome to CMN103 Introduction to Creative Industries. Today I'm going to talk to you about teamwork. And the first question I have for you is, do you think there's a difference between group work and teamwork? If so, what is the difference? Well, teamwork is what we want you to engage with, both in the next assessment task, but also in the way that you engage as a creative in the creative industries. So the difference between group work and teamwork is that groups, you are probably already a member of a number of groups. If I stood on level 1 of C block and I looked down into Cafe C, I would see a group of people. Okay? Now, that group of people may not have an active relationship with one another. They may not be working together. They may not even be aware of each other's existences. But it would look like a group. You might be part of a group of people that work for Coles, but you may not know half of the people that you work with, and you certainly won't interact or work with them collaboratively. So groups are quite different from teams. And teams work much more collaboratively, much more closely together. And also teams have a common goal. And so it's really not about ego. It's about striving towards supporting that common goal. Now I'm going to give you an example of group work and teamwork in my home. As some of you may or may not be aware, I have 2 relatively young children. And as a working parent, it's really hard to be at home with them during the vacations. I can't be home every time they have a school holiday, every time they're home from school. So myself and a group of parents get together and we try to work out who's going to have the children when. So I might take Monday and Tuesday off, and I'll have a whole heap of children over on Monday and Tuesday. And then on Wednesday, my children might go to one of the other parents' houses. On Thursday, they might go to one of the other mothers' or parents' houses, and so on and so forth. So we work collaboratively together to try to support the childcare needs of our children. And then when we have the children in the house, I try to make sure that I've got engaging, fun activities for them to be involved in. And the 2 examples that I'm going to give you of activities that I've run, or one example of each activity that I've run, really should demonstrate or exemplify the difference between group work and teamwork. So my children are quite different in nature, and they're also different in age, so this is not necessarily just a gendered thing that I'm going to illustrate with. My daughter is a little bit older than my son, and she is very interested in art and craft, as are some of her friends. So one of the things that I do for the girls is, and the boys are invited as well, but they often choose not to, is that I set up a table with loads and loads of resources. So there will be egg cartons and paper and glue and textures and pencils and shapes and cookie cutters and all sorts of kind of paraphernalia. And I basically give them really large butcher's paper in the center of the table, and I say, make me something magnificent. Make me something fantastic for the lounge room. And they will work usually really collaboratively on this project. So one of them will start in one corner creating something, and there are 3 or 4 around the table around this large piece of butcher's paper, and somebody else might start over there, but it won't be long before one of them, say for example Yosoda, will look up and she'll look across at my daughter and say, oh, Edie, that's amazing, you need brown for that. And she'll pick up the brown textile or the brown crayon and she'll pass it across. And so she's given my daughter the idea of how to enhance her particular section. She hasn't worried about the fact that it might outshine hers. She's really interested in making sure that this beautiful creation is as wonderful as it can possibly be by supporting the other individual in her endeavour. And then within 2 minutes, one of the other little girls, Zoe, will look up and say, oh, wow, I love what you're doing there. Can I add some hair? And so she'll nip up from her little position and add some amazing kind of, fantastic hair to the character or the idea that somebody else is presenting. And it really doesn't take them long before they're looking at the overall project, the overall design of what they're creating, identifying how they can contribute to enhance it. Not that their section stands out, that their sections is better, that their little image that they've created somehow overshadows somebody else. There's no race, there's no competition. It's truly collaborative. And at the end of a 2 or 3 hour kind of art session, they'll have something that they're all really proud of, that they've each contributed their individual skill, expertise and talent towards, and it will be a collaboratively engaged process. So that's what collaboration is, that's what teamwork is. It's where every individual uses their particular expertise for the greater good of the project, to achieve the project outcomes or aims. And there's a selflessness involved, but there's also a requirement to reflect on their contribution, to think about which bit can I perform, which bit can I do well, which bit should I ask somebody else to come in and do better because they're more expert at that. And it's really a very communicative ongoing kind of relationship and process that emerges. So that's teamwork. Now down the corridor, and it's, as I say, there's an age difference, so this is not necessarily gendered. My son plays with his friends, and so he's a little bit younger, and I've set up Skittles. And I don't have Skittles, I've got tins and I've got things with beans in, plastic containers with beans. And I've gone outside and I've got some soil, and so I've set up these makeshift kind of Skittles down a long corridor, and I've given them a whole series of different things that they can use to either roll or throw to try to knock down these Skittles. So it's a kind of 10-pin bowling alley, and I said, here they are, work together guys, work out which are the best things to roll or to throw, which of these products over here, which of these materials over here are going to hit down as many Skittles as possible. And I've set them up to do it collaboratively because I've asked them to consider working together and to help each other. And within minutes, it's just turned into a competition. So they're now interested in who can knock down the Skittles, how many they as individuals can knock down, not what is the right technique, who's the best person to throw, what is the best beanbag to use, etc. And I know that there's a history there of 10-pin bowling being something that's kind of competitive, but even when I frame it as a collaborative project, they become individuals. Now those group of individuals are there for a group, because although they're working on the same project, they're still trying to knock down as many Skittles as possible. They're not working collaboratively. They're not thinking about how to use their resources to the best event or to the best effect to create the outcome, which is to knock down all the Skittles. So that's the main difference between groups and teams. Groups are individuals that contribute often to the same project, but they contribute individually. They don't enhance or add to or collaborate and give of their skills for the outcome of the overall project in the same way as team players. So I want you to be a team player in task 2. I also want you to be thinking about your teamwork skills more generally, because we all know that in the creative industries, it is teamwork skills that you're going to need in all of the projects that you engage with. It's also your ability to engage and work as a team member that will get you your next gig. Now, what do I mean by that? Each discipline area and each area that you'll work in is actually relatively small. You will know a lot of people and they will know you relatively quickly when you're working in that area. You will get your first opportunity often through a voluntary experience or a work experience, an internship, and you will be able to demonstrate your qualities of teamwork by not just doing what they've asked you to do, but by looking up and looking around and thinking, what else can I do to help this project? How can I help that aspect of the project? Wow, look, Stella is struggling over there with that. I'll go and physically give her a hand. That's teamwork. That's not just doing your particular role, your particular job, something that somebody's asked you to do. Yes, you do your bit and you look around to see how you can help other people. And interestingly, when they want somebody else for that role that you've just managed to demonstrate your skills and your expertise in, they will remember you. And they'll remember you not just because of the expertise that you engaged with and you demonstrated in your particular role. They'll remember how easy you were to work with. They'll remember that you were a good team player, that you were interested in the overall project and not just your contribution to it. And if there's an opportunity to offer you work, they will offer you work. And then you will maintain and continue to develop your skills in teamwork through that process. It's really important that you start that process now while you're studying. So teamwork is essential for success in the creative industries. Okay, I've got a video that I'd like to share with you now, and it's a video of some dolphins and the way that they work together to feed, which is one of those kind of natural survival things that we all have to do. So just have a look at this and think about what I was talking about in terms of working collaboratively, working together to achieve their outcome.
But more impressive than the humpback's size is their intelligence and the sophisticated way they work together. The hunt begins as the whales dive beneath a school of herring, emitting high-pitched calls. In a panic, the fish flee to the surface, where the whales concentrate them by releasing columns of air bubbles. The bubbles act as a barrier. The fish will not swim through it. The whales coordinate their efforts, so the bubbles surround the herring. Finally, the pod leader emits a sound that cues all the whales to ascend with mouths open. A humpback can eat a ton of herring a day this way. Incredibly, each whale ascends in the same position, in the same pattern, time after time.
Okay, and with the second video that you access, I'd like you to adopt a number of different roles. I'd like you to assess a number of different things within that, okay? So one of the first things, and I have a series of questions here I'm going to ask you. One of the first things I'd like you to do, and I'd like you to get your phones ready, with your stopwatch ready, I would like you to time how long the pit stop takes from the moment it starts until the car has left the pit stop. Okay, so that's really important. That's the first thing I'd like you to do, is to write down how long it takes. The second thing I'd like you to do is to work out how many people were involved in the pit stop. So do a quick head count. How many people were involved in changing the tyres? I won't say too much about the different roles, but in terms of all the different things that had to happen for that car to be ready to be able to go out and race. Okay, so first of all, how long did it take? Secondly, how many people were involved? Thirdly, what were the different roles? What happened during the pit stop? Okay, so now that you've seen that video, and maybe you'd like to watch it more than once, you can always press play or rewind and have a look at it again. I just want to talk to you a little bit about how amazing the collaboration was. So how long did that pit stop take? Seconds. Okay. What happened during that pit stop? Well, we know that Some people removed wheels. Some people put fresh wheels on. Somebody cleaned a windscreen. It was refueled. It had to be hoisted up for those things to happen. There were a multitude of different tasks that happened within a very, very short space of time that required a large team to undertake those tasks. So I suppose the question here, or the thing to consider, is what were the qualities and the skills that those particular participants exhibited to be able to be so successful in their pit stop? They knew their role really, really well. They didn't get in each other's way. It was incredibly well rehearsed. They'd worked together before, they'd rehearsed this, they'd practiced this, okay? They had a lot of respect for each other. They didn't get in each other's way in that respect either, physically. So they knew who was doing what, and they complemented each other. It's really quite phenomenal to watch. So that's the level of teamwork that I'm really hoping that you will develop and you will demonstrate in task 2 of CMN103. So, take-home messages. Please make sure that you engage in teamwork and not group work. Please give off your skills and your talents freely for the greater good of the project. There should be no ego involved. If that means listening to other people's suggestions and adding to and enhancing, rather than being the person that always is, that always has the main ideas adopted. Listen, enhance, add to, be collaborative, and you'll create a beautiful masterpiece. I'm not saying that I'll put it on my lounge wall, but it'll certainly be something that you should be able to showcase in your task 3 submission, which is your digital profile. Okay, good luck, guys.